Okay, so given all that, why don't we figure out where we're going to go? Why don't you take control of the situation here until we get into the next room safely? And then that's when we'll pause for the next game.
Gotcha. Let's go. I'm feeling this way. So what is this? If that was north, this would be east.
Yes.
Oh, that was close. All right, we're safe.
All right, cool. So let's make our way in there and then see what the situation is. Oh, look, we're surrounded by traps again. Lovely. Okay. All right. Now let me ponder that while we talk about the next game, and then I'll see where we go from here. So my number 9 was actually another one of these top-down action RPG type games. The only reason I put this one above Grim Dawn is just because there was some little kind of subtle differences in the way the game was presented and the kind of initial impression that it made with me that kind of put it a little bit over the top for me. If I had to pick a negative about Grim Dawn, I would say that one of the things about it is if you're not already very experienced with the genre of like the sort of top-down action RPG and you're kind of coming to it new, I think Grim Dawn is a bit of a steep learning curve because it's not a very hand-holdy or tutorialized or guided experience in a lot of ways, which, obviously if you're a seasoned veteran of that genre, you might find that really appealing about Grim Dawn. But for me, being someone who only kind of occasionally dabbles in the genre, I really liked the way this game's introductory sections ran, and that's How to Survive 2, which technically has not been officially released yet, although the build that's currently available on Steam is the release candidate build. So, as far as I know, that game is feature complete, which is why I'm including it on the list here as of today. I really like a lot of things about that game. It's your basic like zombie survival, crafting, exploration, scavenging type game, but done from that top-down perspective and of course with cooperative gameplay aspect to it. And there's a lot of aspects to that game that maybe aren't as polished or as refined or as top-notch in their execution as say something like Grim Dawn. But I do think that game has a lot of charm to it, and I really appreciate some of the things that they've done with it, especially as it has approached release. When I played the initial versions of it when it first hit early access, I wasn't maybe as taken with it, but I think they've really come a long way seeing this release candidate version of it. I think that game is something kind of special, especially given how just absolutely crowded the zombie genre is right now.
That is true. The survival genre is quite quite ballooned. I think at this point, and I would tend to agree with that. It's a little too basic for me, but that being said, it does have a lot of charm. And honestly, that is saying something because let's face it, there's a lot of games out there to this day that really don't have a lot of charm, even despite like larger budgets.
So what was your number 9?
My number 9 was actually Don't Starve Together. Cuz you know how I wasn't really hot on it at first, but as soon as I was finally able to figure out how to actually survive a little bit, that's when the game starts becoming fun. Now, obviously, some people would argue that figuring out how to survive just by yourself is kind of the charm with that game, or like that's sort of the point of it. But for me, I guess maybe it's because it's the whole survival fatigue that I've felt recently. But as soon as I started to learn the fundamentals of like, oh, okay, this is how this game works. Like these are the ways that you actually survive. I started to enjoy it more because then I could actually live long enough to play with you guys
Mm-hmm.
in a given instance and not die like really early on and have to just kind of sit there and wait. But I still think it's an excellent survival title. Very well done. I just love, really like that art style with it. The whole storybook feel it has about it. Great that they made it like a co-op iteration of that concept.
Yeah, and that's something I would definitely highly praise Don't Starve Together for is just taking a game formula that had been very well established and bringing a critical new and very welcome feature to it in the form of that co-op. And I absolutely would agree that that is a very well made, well executed implementation of a game. So it's my turn. You know, I could go back to the other room knowing that there's another safe way to go from that room, but I'm feeling kind of daring. Daring, is that the right word? I don't know. Crazy? Let's go with crazy. All right, so I have a pretty good feeling about north, so I'm going to keep heading in that general direction as much as I can. So let's see what's behind this door. We know this is going to be a trap. Oh, yeah. So that was not so good. So that is a laser wired room of death. All right, so let's see where else I can go. So we know that room was a trap because we came out of there. Let's go over this way.
It's worth mentioning that that room was blue.
Oh, good point. Good call out.
Oh, that was a spike room.
So that means my shoe might be gone.
Oh, yeah, I heard it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the good news is this is another green room. The bad news is I'm out of shoes.
Yeah. That could be
But
better.
since we've actually made it to another room, why don't we talk about our next game? Look on the bright side.
Sure.
My number 8 is Evolve Stage 2. No one is more surprised by this than I, because when Evolve came out last year, I could not have been less interested in that game in the context of a $60 AAA release. But in the context of this new free-to-play version, I think there's actually quite a bit to like about it. The competitive multiplayer gameplay, the whole four hunters versus one monster dynamic, I think is pretty good. I think the way the game is tuned and optimized and kind of refined in its current free-to-play version, I think is pretty good, and certainly from what I've heard, far better than anything that was seen last year from the for pay version. I kind of look at Evolve Stage 2 as like this kind of comeback story to a certain extent, where it's like a game that had basically been all but panned and forgotten, kind of got some new life breathed into it through just some good decisions and some good hard work on the part of Turtle Rock who developed it. So I kind of wanted to give it a shout out just on those merits alone.
Well, sure, because we feel like it should be said that it's so easy, especially in today's market. You really got to give people credit when they stick it out and they really try and make that project everything that they wanted it to be. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of it, I do have to say that as a co-op experience, it is still very fun, and I think the changes that they made to that game in order to make it more fun rather than more complex actually helps the whole free-to-play model that much more. How when you drop the dome now, it's an automatic trap, so you don't have to like worry about missing the dome or anything if you're the trapper. And again, I think that just goes into making the game more fun. Good on them for sticking it out.
Yeah, absolutely. I could say more about that game, but I feel like, and especially when it comes to these free to play games, I feel like if you're the slightest bit interested in that game, there's really no reason not to check it out. Unless you've got some kind of bandwidth limit, I'd say anybody should definitely give it a shot.